The caterhamracer.com 2024 Caterham Championship is sponsored by 1-to-1 on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker, and by DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage. Very good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 5 then of the caterhamracer.com Caterham Championship. Yes, we are well over halfway distance now, and we've headed across the border up in Scotland to Fife in Scotland and the Knockhill racing circuit nestled in the hills just north of Dunfermline, across the Firth of Forth from Edinburgh. A spectacular place to go Caterham racing, and one that's shown plenty of action in our previous visits up here in the virtual world and also in the real world. Chris Hutchinson here in the commentary box with you for all of the action tonight, and we've got quite a series of a great evenings of entertainment tonight with 2 races as per normal, but we will be running in both directions around this Knockhill. It's one of the most unique circuits in UK motorsport where it is licensed to run in both directions, and as the real world cars will be running in both directions in a couple of weekends time, we do the same in the virtual event. So we are currently finishing off a first 10-minute qualifying session in this, the clockwise direction, the normal direction the Knockhill runs in. And we've had just 10 minutes of qualifying. They're coming right down to the end of it now, and it looks like, if you look at the stack on the left-hand side of your screen, that Ryan Hooker's best of the best at the moment, ahead of Paul Donkin, David Rowe, and Watson, Skillicorn, and Knight following them up. We will be setting the grid, therefore, for this opening race of 15 minutes, after which we will then reboot things, and I'll talk you through the process as we're doing it, but we'll reboot the server. We'll have a further 10 minutes qualifying before then heading into our second race, running in the opposite direction around this Knockhill circuit. So just a quick reminder, here we are at the Knockhill Superheader, round 5. We've just got Brands Indy and Donington National to go after the conclusion of this event, running in the Academy car tonight, before running in the 310 at Brands, and then the final is Donington National in the Caterham Academy car. And it is Paul Donkin that comes into this round as the championship leader ahead of Yaroslav Cherny. Christian Schroeter in that 3rd place. He's not here this evening though. And then Tom McEwing also not here with us this evening. So missing a few of the favourites there. But David Rowe, Paul Fernioff, Richard Watson are all here and ready to see whether they can push on through. So yeah, not too long left then. People pulling into the pits as the timer runs down. Not a chance to show you a lap of the course in the time we've got left before we start going. But we'll just keep an eye to see whether those qualifying positions change at all. But at the moment it's Hooker out front there ahead of Donkin now in that 2nd place, and Rowe in 3rd. Skillicorn comes home in 4th. And then Watson in 5th. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Paul Forsyth putting a late lap in there just to break just under the 1 minute mark into the 10th place as he goes across the line. Alrighty, so that was a very brief qualifying session. Briefly, let's run through those results then. So as Ryan Hooker comes and puts it on pole position for this opening round, the 59.606 ahead of Paul Donkin in 2nd place, just 4 1,000ths of a second back, and only 26 thousandths ahead of David Rowe. Very tight there. Then we got a bit of a 10th of a second before Chris Skillicorn Richard Watson, a great qualifying for 5th place. Cherney down in 6th. We know he races well and will be looking to fight back. Hudson Knight, what a performance for him in that 7th place. Just 3.5 tenths off pole position, so it really is tight to the top of the field. Cameron Miller, Harvey Lawrence, and then Steve Arnell rounding out the top 10. Then we have Paul Forsyth up in 11th. Paul Ferniehoff, I'll say, down in 12th. That's not his normal position. He comes in here 6th place in the championship, so he'll be looking to see whether he can do anything more about that. It was a busy old qualifying session. 19, or I think 17 drivers on the server at the moment. 19 entered. Let's find out this. So Ryan Wilby in 13th, Adam Whitehouse 14th, George Berridge in 15th, Miles Enyon in 16th, and James Houston running out the field in 17th position then. So yeah, running in both directions. We will have a server reset halfway through, so I will, I'll leave you with a holding screen while we just get all the admin sorted, but it should only be a couple of minutes after this first race before we can get going with qualifying for race number 2. As I can see, the drivers now all getting themselves lined up on the grid. So let's go and join them there. There we go, on the Knockhill circuit then. So running in the kind of more traditional view of them coming towards us. If I just zoom into the track map, you'll see that it's not a particularly complicated circuit here at Knockhill. You can see where all the cars are at the top of on the start-finish straight, and they'll be heading initially in this first race to the right of that map, down into Duffer's Dip, and down and around. We will talk through a lap as the opportunities arises during the race. Just 2 kilometres around this circuit. Really is tight and compact. One of the shortest circuits in the UK, but it's doesn't go short on gradient and drama. It's a roller coaster for the drivers. It's relentless. It never gives up, and it's fantastic. It gives some fantastic racing action as well. So it is Ryan Hooker in his white and green machine then that lines himself up on the front row of the grid alongside Paul Donkin, not in his regular red car. He's in a white car this evening, so that's Paul Donkin on the right of your screen. Then we have David Rowe in the DPR Motorsport car there. It's Chris Skillicorn in the black with the red and green stripes down it. Number 44 car there. It's sort of in 4th place. $17 cars then line up for this opening race of this evening. And here we go. The lights then for the opening round. 15 minutes on track, clockwise direction round Knockhill. Who's going to do a best job? Ryan Hooker on pole position. Let's see whether he can get off the line and convert. It's lights out and off we go for race number 1 then, as they all career towards Duffer's Dip off the edge of the world. David Rowe in that 3rd place. Ryan Hooker does hold on over Donkin. David Rowe sits into that 3rd place. Then spin by the back. Cherney has a contact also with Hudson Knight. There's a catastrophe up on lap 1. There is damage on the server tonight, so hopefully all those cars will be able to recover back. But it was an absolute dive bomb there, sliding down the hill, and everyone else getting caught up in the action. Paul Ferniehoff here, watching here, has managed to... Oh, a little... Steve Arnell makes contact with that immovable barrier. It's been drama just into turn 1 here. Already lots of cars limping, wounded, but it's Ryan Hooker out front ahead of David Rowe, moving up into that 2nd place over Chris Skillicorn, who drops down to that 3rd place. He's been now chased down to Donkin, who's dropped a couple off of that start. Ryan Hooker licked down the inside. David Rowe seeing if he can go round the outside. Chris Skillicorn going down the middle. And then it is Cameron Miller in the yellow car. Harvey Lawrence following for a great start after he avoided all that shenanigans. We've got more pre-issues down at the hairpin there as this time through. That's the Taylor's hairpin. So we watch the cars coming down towards us, but it's Harvey Lawrence in that 6th place. Paul Ferniehoff comes through 7th over James Houston, who comes right from the back of the field all the way to 8th again, avoiding all the shenanigans as they went through the first corner. But you've got side by side for the lead. Dave Rowe going down the outside then of McIntyre's, making it stick so far, but Ryan Hooker's still got his nose down the inside of the head up into chicane. Single file through here. You cannot hit that tyre stack, as Steve Arnell found out lap 1, and he will be licking his wounds. Paul Ferniehoff up through there. It's an immovable tyre stack as we wait for the cars then to head around Clark's and back towards us along the Hislop Straight. or the railway straight as it used to be known, coming down towards us now. Then David Rowe currently finds himself out lead, did manage to move it ahead of Ryan Hooker, but Ryan Hooker's working around the outside. Skillicorn late on the brakes there, seeing what he can do. There's a very wide down into that hairpin, and they're trying to make most use of that. Harvey Lawrence in that 6th place. David Rowe, though, does lose out to Ryan Hooker on the way out. Pushed too hard on the way in. Ryan Hooker got the run up the hill. Still side by side, absolutely millimetres between those two cars. We've got another car off in the background. Who's sideways off into the gravel that time through. A bit further back. Ryan Hooker sideways then as he heads down Duffer's Dip into McIntyre's once more. Skillicorn does the last minute dive bomb down the middle of McIntyre's and makes it stick. He's got the inside now for the chicane. Donkin trying to follow him through. David Rowe's been pushed offline side by side as they go through the chicane. They make it stick though. Cameron Miller in that 3rd place, looking to see whether anything's going to happen. At the moment it looked like it was going to go all kaboom, but it didn't at that stage as we watch them again coming around Clark's then. Down towards us, Ryan Hooker ahead of Chris Skillicorn, ahead of David Rowe. Donkin now finds himself ahead of Cameron Miller, who's caught that gap up, and it is a lead quintet as they head down then into Taylor's hairpin again. Ryan Hooker this time nice and neat and tidy. A little bit of a lock up there from David Rowe, pushing absolutely to the limit. Another lock up there also from Harvey Lawrence. Paul Fernie has caught that gap up, and Cherney is recovering back through the field in his red car there just behind Ferniehoff. So after that first lap issue where he had contact with Hudson Knight, who finds himself, where does Hudson find himself? In 9th place. So they're kind of recovering back through that the rear of that field to watch David Rowe launch his car over the Duffer's Dip chicane, heading down then through McIntyre's into Butchers. This is Butchers down the hill, and we come up into the Black Circle chicane. Chris Skillicorn now into that 2nd place then. It keeps changing at the front here as they all sort of make manoeuvres one way then the other as we watch them coming around Clark's again side by side for that 2nd place. Ryan Hooker's licking his chops over that, seeing that a gap is developing as Chris Skillicorn and David Rowe fight for that 2nd position. David Rowe looking down the inside. He's got his wheels slightly overlapped. He is going to shove it down the inside. Chris Skillicorn though has got the more natural line. Is he going to have a better exit? Cameron Miller drifting away again just on the exit. Paul Fernie 4-wheel drifting as he headed into Taylor's hairpin that time, but Ryan Hooker has broken a tiny gap over Skillicorn and Rowe, who continue to battle just ahead of Donkin, and it's Cameron Miller just drifting away slightly, but again firmly attached as soon as they go side by side then into Duffer's Dip. David Rowe holding on bravely around the inside. Chris Skillicorn just acting as a real disruptor at the moment, shoving his nose everywhere it's not wanted, and still not managing to break through though, so drifting back to that 3rd place. David Rowe is in that 2nd, seeing whether he can do anything about holding on then and catching up with Ryan Hooker as we watch them coming up the hill then this time through. Skillicorn now having to defend from Donkin, who is up the inside then as they head around Clark's. Does make that position up, so Skillicorn losing a couple in a couple of corners, heading out on the railway straight along the Hislop's bend and up into Taylor's once more. You can see how dizzying this circuit is as they turn laps around this 2 kilometres only circuit. It's great fun to drive in a Caterham in real life, and the simulator world seems to be issuing some great drama as well in these Academy cars. The Academy drivers will all be here doing their own Superheader event, running 2 races in a race weekend. First time for the Academies that they're going to be doing that. As millimetres between Donkin, who's drifted wide onto the exit curbing there, does manage to recover back to the circuit, but that allows Cameron Miller to squeech his tyres and overtake, kicking up the dust there around McIntyre as they head against the chicane. Absolutely thread your needle stuff through the chicane and up towards us. David Rowe's been able to make best of that little bit of a hiatus in this pack and fighting for 3rd place now, and he has broken 3 to see whether he can do anything about catching up with Ryan Hooker. David Rowe started the season this year with a win and has been on the podium a couple of times since, but certainly not had the most consistent of race weekends. Chris Skillicorn, I think they're maybe having to serve a penalty for track limits infringement. Occasionally we will see the drivers having to slow down to serve a track limit penalty if the stewards deem that they have gone too far off of the circuit. So that means that he is now down into 5th place, and Cameron Miller is fighting with Donkin for that 3rd place as they go around Duffer's Dip once more. This lead battle's been fascinating. Cameron Miller dives down the inside and puts Donkin off sufficiently that he locks up a wheel, and that just cost him the grip he needed. Cameron Miller's been watching and waiting, and he decided that time was the time to pounce, and he's made his way up into that 3rd place, but he goes off into the gravel. It's his turn to regurgitate that position back to Donkin, as Chris Gillicorn now has changes as quick as the corners are coming up. The positions are changing. Donkin finding himself now back into that third place then. He's also sprung a little bit of a gap over that chase group then whilst they were fighting away. Frantic action then in the opening 5 minutes, 6 minutes of this event. Still 8 minutes left to go though. What's happening a bit further back? Well, Harvey Lawrence is still fighting in this pack with Paul Fernhoff and Cherney. Cherney is fully caught up and they're now fighting heavily with Paul Fernhoff, who's made his way past Harvey Lawrence to see whether he can do anything about the drivers in front, but he's certainly going to have to be looking in his mirrors right now as this trio pile their way through Duffer's Dip. Arnell, who we saw in that barrier, he's got a bit of a lonely race night now, trying to catch up with Hudson Knight, who we saw caught up in that opening lap kerfuffle. Paul Forsyth also caught up and fell back in the early part of this race. Out front, David Rowe, though, is catching up with Ryan Hooker. Definitely having a good run in this middle phase. So we'll definitely see that Ryan Hooker will be checking his mirrors, and with 7 minutes to go, that action will heat up. In the real world, the toe would be firmly kicking in now, but in our simulator world, it's not until you see that gap to Ryan Hooker come down to half a second that we'll see the toe really kicking in. David Rowe there putting in a lap that was probably about 6/10 quicker than Ryan Hooker, so that's why he's closing in with gusto. Cherney now also fighting with... got ahead of Hudson Knight. Hudson Knight's come through with ahead of Harvey Lawrence, so Harvey drops back another place. Fernhoff is disappearing off, but Cherney will be seeing whether he can do anything about closing that gap. Fernhoff in turn will be seeing whether he can catch up with Cameron Miller, but Cameron Miller is a little bit further up the road yet, so he's got a bit of work to do before that happens. Our lead gap though still not come down that time. Ryan Hooker, I think, got the better of David Rowe this lap time through. The gap is looking quite consistent from last time, as let's watch the chase group come through then, and it is Chris Gillicorn catching back up with Donkin. They head up this steep hill towards the start-finish line, just over the crest of the hill there. It really is quite a steep run up there, and with these Academy 125 horsepower they've got, but they will certainly notice these hills, and they'll have the Geronimo moment as they head down through Duffer's Dip. It feels like you're going off the end of the world as you head in there in real world racing and in the simulator as well. See them hopping over the curbs. Donkin managing to hold it all together, but the car in front there was fully out of control as he landed the car. Really have to be cautious on the power here as you watch Chris Gillicorn get a great run then out of Clarkson up towards Taylor's. He's going to have to go to the outside. Donkin defends to the inside. Absolutely no way through on the inside. Chris, though, is going to hold his line. Let's see from the helicopter what it looks like. He's trying to go the long way around the outside. You can see how much room you've got on the exit of that, on the apex of that corner. But he has to drop back, and Donkin again feeling he needs to defend the toe. Chris Gillicorn, though, is going to have a run as they head over the hill, then nose to tail. Donkin defending to the inside once more. Chris Gillicorn's got the more natural line, can carry more speed in. Donkin is compromised around this whole sequence, so can Chris Gillicorn do the dive bomb again? Not this time. He didn't quite have the positional that he had on David Rowe in that first opening lap, as Donkin survives that lap's onslaught, but he'll be ready for the next lap to come. Lead battle then, still that 9/10 of a second. So Ryan Hooker has managed to sort of stop the rot, as it were. He's got his... Apex has had two series sponsors out front then. Ryan Hooker, a one-to-one coaching, and David Rowe of DPR Motorsport. Ever so many thanks to both of you for your support, and I promise I don't give them extra horsepower just because they help support this service, but they are currently head and shoulders above Donkin, who is struggling a little bit with his Academy car. He suits more the 420 which he races in real life, as he goes nose to tail once more with Chris Gillicorn, and Donkin will be out on circuit for real, as will Harvey Lawrence and a number of the other drivers here. Not next weekend, but the weekend following, when the real world Caterham Motorsport Carnival heads up to Fife in Scotland for their annual, well, now it's turning out to be quite an annual visit up into this one of the favourite tracks for the drivers. It's always a tough race, though, and you can see how much action we've packed into this simulator race with 3 minutes then to go. The lead pack is still looking about the same. It's a 2x2 in the first 4 cars here. David Rowe and Ryan Hooker maintain that gap out front, and then it is this battle with Donkin and Chris Skillicorn for the pack behind. A little bit further back now, it's Fernerhoff leading Cherney. So Cherney has made his way past Hudson Knight. In fact, he was already ahead of Hudson Knight, apologies. And he's looking to see whether he can close in. And there is Steve Arnell also making great results. He's come ahead of... he's moved ahead of our driver there as well. So Harvey Lawrence has dropped further back. I'm just trying to see where he is on... Harvey Lawrence showing down in 17th. I'm not sure why our data's saying that. Maybe... I think it's just transponder issues. For some reason, Harvey's showing further down the order than he is. Let's hope that that all corrects itself as the results sheets all come through. But only 2 minutes then of this race as this pack of cars, Cherney right on the rear then of Ferniehoff then as they came through the chicane. Can he do anything about it as they come up towards us at Clark's then? Here's Cameron Miller. Then we've got Donkin. So Donkin's fallen back. What happened to Donkin? He must have had an issue. Chris Gillicorn's clear in that 3rd place. Sorry, I missed that happening as we went back here. Hudson Knight now having to defend from Cherney. So it really is all shaking itself up and to bits again as we head into the final part of this race then. Final few laps for them all in this clockwise direction, but they really have brought the action tonight. There's no shortage of things to talk about, but Ryan Hooker has pretty much led since that opening sort of salvo. David Rowe pushing out onto the gravel, but Ryan Hooker's definitely had the speed in the middle part of this race to defend from the onslaught of David Rowe. He's only got a couple more laps as we watch Skillicorn now. The gap back down to 3rd place significantly grew then, so I missed what happened between him and Donkin, but certainly there was something there. Cameron Miller's just been Mr. Consistent in 4th place ahead of Donkin, who drifted back to that 5th place, and now he is firmly fighting this battle with there's Skillicorn going through, there's Cameron Miller going through, and we wait for Donkin, then Ferniehoff. Ferniehoff are recovering from 12th on that qualifying, so a great result to recover back through, and Hudson Knight is back ahead of Cherney. Like we said, Cherney had a issue or some mistake there, and he's falling into the clutches now of Steve Arnell. I wonder if Cherney's got any damage on his car then. Ryan Hooker still out front then with 46 seconds on the clock to go, so it will be last lap scenario here. It does look like Ryan Hooker, he's coming out to a back marker, so I think that's going to be James Houston. He's coming up to lap. That's not ideal. Can he get through by the time he gets up into Clark? Sorry, I think that's what he'll be aiming to do. He's already got past one of the back markers there. I think that was Miles Ainan, so yeah, looking like he's got through, and they both have got past there. James Houston as David Rowe drifts off onto the gravel once more, costing himself some more time, so that's going to affect his ability to catch up in this closing part of this lap. But Rowe in that 2nd place then as we watch them coming around to complete their race. 2 seconds, 1 second, 0. We are going to have a checkered flag this time then as the cars come up towards us, and it is Ryan Hooker then that takes that checkered flag. David Rowe in 2nd place. What are the positions further back going to be? Let's scoot back up the hill and have a look who's coming across the line. Skillicorn does take that 3rd place. Cameron Miller does take 4th, just ahead of Donkin, Ferniehoff. Then it's Knight and Cherney, Arnell, all coming back together then as they headed into the late part of that race. Here comes Ryan Wilby, head of Forsyth, and it's Berridge going down to the pits after that, so whew, take a breath. Skillicorn in 3rd, so Miller in 4th, and then Donkin in the 5th place. Let's get back to the pits and confirm that result before we head and reset the server so we can put them all into the opposite direction route. But we'll let this session complete before we do so. So just a confirmation then, Ryan Hooker out front leading that nearly lights to flag victory. David Rowe in 2nd place, Chris Skillicorn 3rd, Cameron Miller comes home 4th, Donkin 5th. Then it's Paul Ferniehoff, Hudson Knight, Cherney, Steve Arnell, Richard Watson rounds out the top 10. Then in the 11th place we have Ryan Wilby, followed by Paul Forsyth, George Berridge. Adam Whitehouse, James Houston comes home 15th, Miles Zanen in 16th, and it's Harvey Lawrence in 17th place. We were missing Jay Shepherd and Andrew Parker from the running. So just a few seconds left just to say, we will be heading off then to go and reset the servers. I don't imagine this is going to take more than a few minutes. But whilst we go and reset everything and get everyone back in, we will then be followed by a 10-minute qualifying and then race number 2 in the opposite direction. So we will be back very soon and bring you more of the action from here at Knockhill. Okay, welcome back then to Knockhill. Now, as you see all the cars flying out for their 10-minute qualifying session now in this reverse direction. So everything as it was before, except for everything is in completely the other direction. And again, like I say, in real world, we will be doing this for real with Caterham Motorsport in not this coming weekend, but the weekend following. Let's have a quick look at the official Caterham Motorsport season then. A complicated screen, but let me draw your attention to the right hand side where you can see on the 3rd and 4th of August there we have the Knockhill Superheader. So that's like I say, not this coming weekend but the weekend following. You will be able to follow all that action live with me in the commentary box as ever from that Knockhill circuit if you go to Caterham Motorsport on YouTube or caterhamcars.com and find all the live streaming links. Or barc.net as well is another place you can get all those streams. So yeah, that's very much underway. But like I say, very much underway then for our drivers now heading round. So they've just found everything in the one direction. They will be going in the other direction. So let's pick an opportune moment and try and let David Rowe take us a lap round, see whether he can survive a full circuit of this run. He'll go very sideways as he heads into the chicane that time. They've only got 10 minutes. They haven't got many attempts around this track, but let's go on board with David Rowe then as he takes us around the final corner, up Duffers Dip this time, and how the start finish straight. So this time we are going to be heading downhill then into Taylor's hairpin. So pick your braking point, slam on the anchors, and it's absolutely perfect hairpin. It really is. Tuck it in, drop over the little crest and get the power on as soon as you can. Now we're heading backwards down the Hislops chicane, Hislops straight, or the railway straight, And we're using this right-hand tight line. We'll open up slightly before we go onto the brakes and looking for the left-hander at Clark's then. Again, the cambers and gradients cause the car to drift off into the gravel as Ryan Hooker there and several others heading out into there. We're heading downhill into the chicane. Again, braking point extremely important. The rear end of the car goes light. One car having to take to the grass there to avoid it. So we head back up through Butchers, now into McIntyre's, then left-hander this time. And then we're going to be heading uphill. Great lap, threading the needle between all the other drivers, flying off left, right and centre for David O. Pick your point, launch over the curb, and you've just got enough room then to get the power down. David Rowe coming to complete another lap. Already got a 59.5 in the back, and he's got a 59.1 now. That's going to be hard to beat for the rest of this group. What a lap. He got the toe, and everyone else sort of fell by his wayside. So great by the DPR Motorsport driver there. Thank you for taking us around that lap successfully, David. A great start. Can he improve on the second place then he got in that opening round? He was third on the grid in the clockwise direction. Now in this reverse direction, he's currently heading and looking happy out in the pole position. There was Chris Gillicorn just having to avoid Forsyth as he heads down this chicane. Then look at the rear of the cars dancing around. There's Harvey Lawrence there just avoiding that tyre stack. Chris Gillicorn threading the needle. Cherney moves up into that second place. I said it was going to be hard to beat David Rowe. That's only 0.1 behind as David Rowe spins in the foreground of our shot then. So Forsyth launches over the curbs. He's in 5th place. Can he improve on this? Can Chris Gillicorn improve from 4th place? He can indeed. He moves that one more place into 59.2. Another, he's just behind. And 59.3 for Donkin. It's 59.4 for Hooker. The times are epically close. Forsyth and Harvey Lawrence Wilby is just outside that second, so nearly the top 10 inside that second. I think by the end of this qualifying, fast and frantic, of which they're already halfway through this qualifying session, I think we'll see them all bringing that together. So trying to work out, you can see how important it was to get a good start in race 1. And they'll be looking to see whether they can get an equally good start in this race 2. Vernioff way down in 12th. I wonder if he's just searching for a bit of clean track before putting in his lap. So no respite tonight, is there? It's action aplenty. Harvey Lawrence looked like he had everything sorted out in that opening round and managed to hold on well, but did drift back a little bit after the opening salvos. But nevertheless, a good race for race 1. And now racing in this opposite direction, he moves himself up into 7th place in the 59.5. Ryan Hooker does make it up into the pole position then. 59.082. Can we make it into the 58s by the end of this qualifying session? The reverse direction circuit just lends itself to slightly faster lap times than the clockwise, only by a matter of a few tenths, but certainly just the slightly quicker format for these Caterham Academy cars. It's going to be great to watch the Caterham Academy deal with this challenge of racing one direction one way and the other direction the other when they actually get there for real in a couple of weeks. We can find there's contact with Forsyth with that immovable tyre stack. And we've got another car launching himself. In fact, everyone's decided they're going to absolutely play dodge with that tyre stack. They did get out the way of those trailing cars, but that's not the way that you want to head up down through that chicane. Luckily, that tyre stack is not there in real life as we watch others dicing with it. But 27 thousandths of a second row is now behind Ryan Hooker. It is those two out front once more then with 3 3/4 minutes still to go. So still able to get in at least a couple more laps, if not 3. If they're quick and they don't have issues. Steve Arnell, we saw him fighting well back through after issues through the chicane. If he can start this race and get through the melee that is sure to be turn 1, he has got a good chance. He's got speed in that car. Paul Fernioff hasn't made it up much beyond that 11th place. Is there anything he can do? He's following Ryan Hooker, drifts onto the gravel. He's going to go down through the chicane this time. Excuse my hiccups. I can't stop talking. Oh, he's got a wide line there. That's not going to be a speedy line for him as he ends up through Butchers into McIntyre's. The left-hander then launches that curb. It just upsets the car slightly, but you have to use everything of this circuit to maximise. No rest for our drivers as they head round here. They're going to be hot and sweaty by the end of this, I am sure. Down he comes then, still in that 13th place. In fact, it's getting worse as other drivers improve. David Rowe does put it onto a provisional pole then. He's found another couple of thousandths and moves it to 59.005. Still not drifted into that 58 bracket yet, but as close as you can get it. He's within a pile of cars. As long as those cars don't go off in front of him, he might even get a bit of a toe off them to see whether he can improve his time once more. But David Rowe, Ryan Hooker having an absolutely epic battle for that pole position. Donkin not getting on with his academy car, but with his high standards, he's used to winning, but he's still up there and firmly in this battle. Currently finds himself in 6th, just behind those other cars he was battling. Forsyth has moved up into that 4th place, so that's a good result for him into this qualifying and a good starting position after a consistent set of races. Oh, that was close again by one of our cars in the red. Who was that? Probably George Berridge, wasn't it? Just avoiding those tyre barriers that time through. Saw him a couple of laps ago doing a similar avoiding action. The green car there of Ryan will be heading up over the line as well. Donkin following him across. Can they improve this time through? Hudson Knight's one driver that has improved up to 8th place, but Donkin and Wilby here didn't improve. But the Hudson Knight's the red car just in front. He did make a move up. We have got 1 minute 18 left, so maybe a couple of laps max for our drivers then in this 10-minute qualifying session. Who is going to be able to make a late move? It's only 77 1,000ths of a second between David Rowe in pole position and Ryan Hooker in at 2nd place. So Ferniehoff there bedded in the barrier. Steve Arnell doing drift games, and David Rowe getting caught up behind Forsyth that time. Arnell drifting down the hills. We've got more cars dicing with catastrophe in that tyre barrier. You can see why it's there. It really does protect Berridge again, playing with millimetres to spare around that tyre barrier. A few people making improvements. Harvey Lawrence up into 3rd place. What a result for him up into that 3rd place then. Just 0.2 of a second off of our pole lap. So he got a screamer out there. Ahead of Cherney, Forsyth, Skillicon, Donkin, Hudson Knight. Paul Ferniehoff does move up into 9th. He's back in the pits, assuming then he has done what he can do. We saw him in the tyre barrier, maybe a bit frustrated that it hasn't all come together. But 9th place. He moved well forward in the last race, so I'm sure we'll be looking to do the same again. Steve Arnell finds himself in 10th. Ryan Wilby, Watson, Whitehouse, Ainan, Breridge and Houston in 16th. 5 seconds of normal time to go. But if they do get across the line to start their lap, they will do that. I heard one car off into the gravel in my earphones. But all the drivers you can see here on screen will be completing their laps this time, and they will won't have time to complete another. So this is the last roll of the dice then. Can Ryan Hooker do anything about getting in front of David Rowe? Seeing him across the line, does he crest that hill? He can't, so he is going to stay in that 2nd place. Can anyone else do anything about this time? We see drivers here waiting around. Do you see Arnell coming across the line? Berridge makes an improvement up to 14th on the dying lap of his qualifying. Is this Cherney coming up towards us? I think it might be. Let's see whether Cherney can do anything on the last lap. He doesn't. So I think we have got now a confirmed grid. Let's just get that sorted for you. So it's David Rowe then, who is in pole position by 77 thousandths of a second ahead of Hooker. 2 championship sponsors again out front. Harvey Lawrence, a great result for him in 3rd place. Can he convert that into a race performance? Maybe he can get back onto that podium. Yaroslav Cherney in 4th, Paul Forsyth 5th, Chris Skillicorn comes home 6th. Then we've got Donkin, Hudson Knight, Paul Ferniehoff, Steve Arnell rounding out the top 10. And it's Ryan Wilby in that 11th place once more. Richard Watson, Adam Whitehouse, George Berridge, Miles Ainan, James Houston is 16th, Cameron Miller 17th. So Miller not getting out there for that 2nd session. I wonder maybe he's got some connection issues. And then Jay Shepherd and Andrew Parker, again, not currently showing online. So Cherney in, I'm just making my notes. Forsyth. 15 minutes of action then incoming very shortly. The 2nd race here at Knockhill, but running in this anti-clockwise direction, which seems to be even more dramaful as they head over the hill and down towards that chicane. And again, see all the drivers lining up here onto the grid then. So we get this camera sorted. Sorry about that. Yep, Ryan Hooker then and David Rowe. It was these two drivers who went very much nose to tail throughout that first race, but it was Ryan Hooker that had it very much under control. David Rowe tried his best, but couldn't quite manage to keep up to the end, and they finished in first and second, but David Rowe has managed to put it on pole position. Can he convert? It's then Cherney and Harvey Lawrence alongside them in that row following. Forsyth and Skillicorn, Forsyth in the blue car, Skillicorn in the black with the red and green stripes. Then we have Donkin quite midfield, isn't he? So he's looks quite a long way back from our camera angle right now in that white car on the left of your screen, followed by Hudson Knight in the red and black machinery. Then it's Arnell and Ferneyhoff also further back than they might expect, and the rest of this field all lined up nicely, ready for then 15 minutes of action around this Knockhill circuit. Can David Rowe reverse the positions from the last race? He certainly got the speed in his car, but only 77 thousandths separated our lead two cars. Cherney is right back where he needs to be after the issues in that turn one melee in the earlier race. Harvey Lawrence, high as he's been on our grids here, can he convert into a podium perhaps out there? Skillicorn and Forsyth had a great race last time out. Skillicorn was never far from adventure, and we've seen so many of them flirting with that tyre stack. Can they make it through? Remember, they run damage, and if they get damaged in the race, there's no way they're going to be able to pit to get that fixed in time and still figure. The lights then are up for the second 15 minutes. Round 5 here at Knockhill, running in the reverse direction. Let's get this race underway. Who can make the best start? It's lights out, and off we go then. And Ryan Hooker and David Rowe got an even start then as they're heading down in turn one. Everyone else even as they headed down the hill. Cherney has got ahead of Harvey Lawrence off the line, and Ryan Hooker's got the inside line then. So actually second position was quite advantageous. So we watched this field try and thread the needle. Got one car, Donkin sideways, just locking the rear of his car, but he's managed to get it back up and running as the field then spread across the railway straight, heading down towards Clark's left-hander. Apex and Camber working against you as it goes downhill. Harvey Lawrence drifting wide there. Chris Skillicorn may well have a little look at him as they go up into chicane. This year, Harnell having a wiggly moment at the rear of his car. Ryan Hooker managed to get it all under control. Cherney, Harvey Lawrence as the rest sort of scatter to avoid that tyre barrier. Hooker over Rowe, then over Cherney. Cherney looking aggressively intent on in this early part of this lap as the rest of the cars follow behind. Absolutely nose to tail. Flying up Duffer's Dip then. Clip that apex, and you've just got enough room on the apex to keep your foot fully planted in all the Caterhams that we're going to be able to seeing over here at Knockhill in the next couple of weekends. They can all just about make that corner with just a little feather in the 420's case, perhaps, depending on the run you get. As they head then, you can see how steeply the Taylor's hairpin runs away from you in this direction. You really do need to make sure you don't lock up on the way in, because then it sends you out wide and you never get back to the apex, which just makes this 2-kilometre circuit just that little bit longer, and it costs you a little bit of time. Harvey Lawrence still in that 4th place though as we watch the rest of this field. Hudson Knight losing the rear of his car. Wilson thread this needle. Cherney late on the apex there, and that's not going to help Hudson Knight late as well as he headed through that time through. But it is Ryan Hooker. David Rowe will be fully sick of looking at the Ryan Hooker's rear panel if he can't get through, but he's got another 13 minutes to see what he can do as they head to start their 3rd lap already. Really is relentless, this circuit. Up and over the steep hill, and then down the other side, heading in downhill braking zone to the Taylor's hairpin. A little bit of a lock up from Cherney, but didn't cost him any time. Let's keep an eye out here. Hudson Knight having to give way to Donkin. Donkin shows him the edge of the track, and great millimetre inch by inch driving. Hudson Knight going to tuck his car back on the inside. That does leave him on the tight line as he comes into Clark's though, and he is going to have to back away from that. It was the sensible choice, and he is going to see whether he can do anything about Donkin, who feels he has to defend. Who's going to go and flirt with the barrier? Donkin does, and Hudson Knight actually had to get on the brakes there to avoid Hudson Knight, and Watson also getting involved a little bit further back and looking to see whether he can do anything. There's Arnell and Paul Ferneyhoff. They've been running nose to tail since the start of this race, followed by Ryan Wilby, and Cameron Miller is in the race then in 13th position. He didn't take part in qualifying, but he is here for that race. Side by side for second. Cherney looking to see whether they can get around the outside of David Rowe and 32 DPR Motorsport car. Can't do it this time, but he's going to look down to Clark's this time through. Cherney going to the outside. That's all he's been given by Rowe. Rowe knows that that's going to be an easy defence. There was a little bit of a love tap there, I think, just on the way in, and a bit of a tyre lock-up, which does send cars wide. A little bit further back, we also saw a couple of lock-ups as the battle continues between Donkin as we watch them all heading down towards the chicane. Nicely threaded through. Paul Farniff a bit late in the line there, but everyone else nice and tidy. Hudson's got a bit between his teeth, fighting with our championship leader, who's not getting on so well with this Academy car. And we've got the Academy car once more at Donington in the final round of the season, so Donkin will not be looking forward to that, I'm sure. We've got the 310 up next, though, when we head. I can't remember where we're heading next. We'll have to come back to that in a minute. But as Hudson heads downhill. At Brands Hatch, of course it is. Still really nose to tail then, 5 minutes into this race. Really hasn't split up like the old one. Probably shouldn't put the commentator's curse on it. David Rowe has lost that position out. Pole position, thing to be on the other side than you might prefer off the start line there, because it was Ryan Hooker that got given the inside line. Skillicorn flirting with the barrier, as was Forsyth there, millimetres across that, and I think Donkin and Hudson were also very close. George Berra just losing a position right at the back of our grid that time through. Stayed much closer for the lead pair throughout this early part of the lap then. 10 minutes of this race to go. Both setting a fast pace, but David Rowe getting a better lap time that time through, closing in a couple of tenths over Ryan Hooker. You can see he's absolutely nose to tail. Nowhere through that time then, actually, by trying to take that tighter line. It's cost him all the way down this next straight, hasn't he? So that was a little bit of a misadventure there as far as being able to stay with Ryan Hooker down into Clark's Bend. Great angle here to show just how steep and how many gradients there are. Those gravel traps also popular in the real world with our drivers as they grapple and wrestle their Caterhams. They do actually catch air as well in the real world as they come over the top of that chicane and drop into the dip at the bottom, up into Butcher's. The cars fully leave the circuit, and it's a spectacular place to go and get some photos of our drivers in the real world. And yeah, if you've never been up to Knockhill, as we see David Rowe looking to see whether he can do anything about Ryan Hooker, they're absolutely millimetres apart. He's going for the outside, that's all he got given. He's late on the brakes. Can he make it all the way around the outside? He's certainly going to squeeze Ryan. I think he's going to be enough alongside and having the inside then for Clark's. Indeed, Ryan Hooker has to capitulate and drift behind him. He's looking to see whether he can do anything about getting back down the inside. He can't. David Rowe makes it round the outside of Taylor's. Is going to go down the inside there. Ryan Hooker absolutely sends him one. Had to get out. There was nothing between those two cars. David Rowe just holding on. Great move. Great sequence of corners. Harvey Lawrence back up into fourth place, so hanging on in there really nicely in his grey machinery. It's just Cherney up ahead of him, and he's holding off Chris Gillicorn of Forsyth at this stage of the race. But David Rowe puts his car, number 32 DPR machinery, out front, and we've already got a back marker there. I think that's James Houston in that purple machine, which all these cars will have to deal with unless he takes to the pit lane or some other mildly sensible choice. But he'll be having to check his mirrors as they head over this the crest once more, over the start-finish line. Fastest laps being set by David Rowe there, 59.3, so he's put himself out in front and made himself go quicker than Ryan Hooker, but he's locked up there into Taylor's that time through, and that's going to give Ryan Hooker another run at him down into Clark's then round this Hislop's. Not going to give up the inside, and then at that point it's a relatively easy defensive manoeuvre, but he's going to have to cover both. It definitely compromises his car, and it's going to mean that Cherney is easily able to catch up with these two, as they've also got to deal with the back marker coming up with them. They're probably going to be caught up with him by the next lap. So we watch James Houston there just warping a little bit as he heads through the chicane this time through. David Rowe feeding and like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, leading this merry brigade of Caterham Academy cars up this time through Duffer's Dip, picking the turning point, and can't see it from the driver's seat. You just have to wing it and hope for the best. James Houston pulling to the inside then. I think he will let this lead pack go through at least. Let's see whether he can stay out of the way of the fourth place as well. Good driving, good awareness by our drivers out there do ask them to pay particular attention as he's down the inside there. He's going to get caught with a little bit of that chase group. Just sticks to the inside there. Harvey Lawrence still ahead of Chris Skillicorn then as they head down the straight this time. But the battle has been intense between Rowe and Ryan Hooker all the way through this race, and as it was for the whole of the last 15 minutes as well. Firmly nose to tail. Cherney not able to make too many impacts. There's such the speed of the two out in front. But he's happily there in that. Houston, our back marker, just in the middle there, coming through ahead of Harvey Lawrence. There he is. Got Miles Enyon there just on the grass on the exit, so he's staying well out the way. Nose to tail again as they start their next lap then. Nothing between these two as they head down into Taylor's once more. Outside line for Ryan Hooker, seeing whether it can work for him like it did for Rowe. It didn't, so he's doing the chop back instead, seeing whether he can get on the power early, and he does. He's got a good run of speed. Can he do anything with it? Ryan Hooker's not letting him. Bit of a catastrophe at the back there. There's cars tripping over each other as they went into Taylor's hairpin that time. Nose to tail contact. Looks like they all continued on racing though. Harvey Lawrence still in that 4th place. And Chris Skillicorn I saw getting a bit caught up, so we'll have to see if that dials itself out. But whilst this lead battle rages on, let's keep with them. David Rowe not having anything his own way, is he? Donkin making his way through, so I think we did see some issues for our drivers back here. We've got more issues going round. Clark's there, and Chris Skillicorn is dropping down the order, as is Watson as well. So back markers playing their part there in causing some shuffles. I think Chris Skillicorn just out onto the grass there. He's only just recovered back to the circuit, so not sure what happened there, but he got caught out by cars, and that's pushed him off onto the circuit, off onto the edges, and he's dropped back now down to 7th place. That leaves Harvey Lawrence pretty safe in 4th. I say pretty safe as I watched Donkin just locking up, absolutely piling his Caterham Academy car in there to see whether he can do anything. It looks like he might have a run. Harvey Lawrence not defending that inside line, deciding that the outside is the one to protect. And I think that's probably quite a sensible move going into this reverse direction. It does compromise your line, but there's not really anywhere for the driver behind to do anything about it. He's going to look around the outside, though, as they go into the chicane. This is going to be exciting. Harvey Lawrence just lost the rear at exactly the wrong time, and that lets Donkin around the outside. But he did the right thing, came out the throttle and just lives to fight another day. So we catch back up then with our lead battle. Still nothing between these two as they head across the line. Ryan Hooker has been absolutely pushing David Rowe across that line. They Hooker that time 2 tenths faster than David Rowe as they completed that lap time through. He's looking around the outside again. Can he try that chop under? David Rowe just took the speed off in the middle of the corner, and that does give Ryan Hooker that little run. He tried to protect from the undercut, but it does mean that Cherney's got a good advantage over them as they come down this straight, and there's really nowhere Ryan Hooker's been given to go past David Rowe. He has to sit there and wait for another corner, another chance, another opportunity, seeing whether he can do. Can he pressure David into making that mistake that he needs? 3 minutes and a half to go in this second race this evening then for our drivers. Donkin pulling a little bit clear of Harvey Lawrence. Paul Ferniehoff having a bit of a lonely race just behind. He's got there's Paul Ferniehoff just behind Harvey Lawrence. Good gap back then to Skillicorn next up and fighting with Watson and Adam Whitehouse. Here we go then. 2 minutes 50 to go. David Rowe leads. Got one more back marker ahead. Looks like Hudson Knight at some point has gone back into the pits. I don't know if he's got damage or maybe a track limits infringement. But Hudson Knight won't figure in the top half of this race. Don't look now, but Cherney is only a second behind. And looking like he's getting more interested in that battle as we come through to the dying parts of this race then. Just about a minute round, isn't it, for the cars, and 2 minutes on the clock. So I think we'll probably get this lap and then the next one. So probably penultimate lap as they cross the line, but it's going to be ever so close. They might just sneak in 3. Last time they were just short of the line when they crossed it. This time it looks like they might just be up there in time to get 3 more laps in. So let's keep an eye out for that. It's going to be ever so close as they come up, whether they're going to have one more lap or whether it will be the final lap. It's been intense to watch these two, and fantastic action, and as close as you like. Can't tell you how much skill and concentration it takes in the real world, but also maybe even more so in the simulator world, to keep everything under control, where you sort of don't quite have so many senses available to you. You don't have that seat of the pants feel, but simulator driving is an incredibly important tool for modern day motorsport. All the top flight drivers, well, many of the top flight drivers also choosing to get practice. Obviously all the psychology in sim racing is exactly the same, and nowadays the simulators are accurate enough that there really is a good feel for the cars out there on circuit as well. All the simulator equipment that exists really does start blurring the lines between reality and the simulator world. And certainly, like I say, the psychology and what it feels like to race against your fellow competitors, it's very similar. Ryan Hooker, though, got a couple of opportunities potentially then as they start there. What will likely be the penultimate lap, but it's going to be ever so close as they come up. He's going around the outside then, seeing if there's anything he can do. Is he going to force the issue around the outside? He's certainly looking like it. Woo, there must have been millimetres between them that time, but he had to get on that brake and he had to give way to David as they head down into chicane. Though, is this back marker going to act interference? David Rowe will be wishing that it wasn't there, because he doesn't want that to come into effect. I think it's George Berridge maybe in that red car that they're coming up to quickly on. Will he be able to check his mirrors in time? So look at that, 10 seconds on the clock. I think they will get across the line then, just. I can hear Berridge has pulled to one side. 2 seconds to go, so they have got across the line. They will have one final lap then. George Berridge doing a great job of getting out the way. One final lap. Can Cherney do anything about it? David Rowe slightly wide there. Ryan Hooker taking that tighter line, but I think his last lap might have been the closer one as they come out here. This is one of the better overtaking opportunities. Behind him, it is still Donkin ahead of Lawrence, ahead of Ferneyhoff, Skillicorn in 7th, Watson, Whitehouse and Wilby rounding out the top 10. Another lock up there for David, really pushing. Smoke hanging in the air as the smoke from his Toyo AAA tyres hangs there as they head downhill then up into Butchers, round McIntyre's for the final time. Really can nearly see that line other than the big hill that's in the way. One final climb then, one final Geronimo round and up Duffer's Dip over the top, and it looks like David Rowe will take that victory then. Returns the favour. Ryan Hooker taking the second place then as they come over the line. Watching there, Cherney taking that third place over the line. So we watch to see Donkin taking home 4th place. Harvey Lawrence, a brilliant race into 5th place. Ferneyhoff, a lonely counter for him, pulling clear of his biggest rivals. Fair gap then back to Chris Skillicorn, who's next up and coming up through Duffer's Dip. So we watch Watson, Whitehouse battle. Look at this battle. Ryan will be diving out to see if there's anything he can do. Indeed, he does get past Adam Whitehouse on that last lap just as they cross the line. So reversal of that top 10 there. Watching the red to this field come through. Great action from all our drivers tonight. Ever so many thanks. Other than that sort of first quarter, first race issue, it looks like it was a good result. So let's confirm the result from race 2 then here at Knockhill. David Rowe turns the tide on Ryan Hooker and manages to get one back over him with a spectacular move around the outside of the Taylor's hairpin. So he takes his second victory of the season, ahead of Ryan Hooker in that second place. A good consistent racing evening for him, ahead of Cherney in third place. Paul Donkin scrambles his academy car 4th. Harvey Lawrence drifts a couple of places, or one place back from his starting position, but his best result here on our service, ahead of Paul Ferneyhoff, Chris Skillicorn, Watson, Wilby and Whitehouse rounding out that top 10. Forsyth, Cameron Miller, George Berridge, James Houston, Steve Arnell, Hudson Knight round out our runners, and Miles Enion as well. Jay Shepherd and Andrew Parker didn't take part tonight. Woo! And breathe just a touch, just a little bit, as we going to have a look up and down the pit lane and see whether I can have a quick chat with maybe some of our drivers, see if there's anyone left, to be honest. Lots of them I think are diving off to have a breather But let's talk to race 1 winner then, David. Race 1 winner, Ryan Hooker. Hey Ryan, have you got us in the commentary box?
Evening, Chris.
What an evening it was. You had I don't think there was more than a couple of tenths between you the whole night.
No, currently sitting here in a little puddle. Yeah, unbelievable. Got that sweet lap in qualifying, which obviously knew it was going to be very, very close. And I guess I got fortunate with the getting with the others battling just behind me in the first one, just a touch to get away. But I think Dave was just a little bit stronger. I also guess obviously you got someone to chase, that helps, and me being just a little bit tentative where you can be. And I was just qualifying laps each time that I could do, and I think he just nibbled the gravel, which gave me a little bit of breathing space in that first race.
Yeah, and then race 2, I mean, fair dues, it was a great move around the outside of the hairpin on you. There wasn't much you could do at that point, I guess.
No, absolutely. And the same with that one, really. I was just sort of placing myself nicely, trying to just give a little bit of leeway in a couple of these challenging corners where it's easy to fall off. And then I thought, okay, well, Dave's made a super move. We'll sit behind and see if we can keep the pressure on, see if he makes a little mistake. And he didn't. I made a couple, managed to close it. But yeah, you're right. It was just that
one opportunity,
a really great evening.
One opportunity to Clark's, I think, to return the favour, but they were just didn't have quite the overlap.
No, that's very true, and you're absolutely right. A couple of times, and I thought it's going to be close. I might have got there. We both just might have ran a bit deep. I don't necessarily think there'd be contact, but it was squeezed, and I thought Dave's quite brave going for the apex, but fortunately I was able to get out of it and miss him both times.
I thought that too, and it was well driven by you both. But yeah, great racing, and as ever, thanks for your sponsorship and support of the championship. And I guess we'll see you up in Knockhill in a couple of weekends' time.
That's great, Chris. Absolute pleasure. Yeah, that's right. I leave. I start my journey Monday night for the week up there.
For a trip up to Scotland. Nice. All right. Well, I'll see you there.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
And let's try and get our race 2 winner, David Rowe. Hello, David.
Hello, Cheesy. You all right?
Nice result. Second win of the season, and you really, really had to work for that. Race 1 was epic, but race 2, that move was spectacular around the outside of the hairpin.
Yeah, it's definitely substantially more difficult to overtake anti-clockwise. But wow, I had to turn all comms off. My steering wheel is sweatier than a sweaty thing. Maximum concentration required for that, and fair play to Ryan. That was good racing.
It's kind of hard to describe to people just watching if they've not done it, but this track and this course and this car combination, it really is unsettled all the time, and the rear of the car can bite you at any time, right?
Well, it's also how much risk do you take, through the chicane and all that kind of stuff. You can do a banzai lap every now and again, but trying to be consistent and keep it on the track, which was actually Ryan's real positive in race 1. He just kept it on the circuit, and I was trying my hardest to catch him, but then fell back when I took too much.
As soon as you tickle that gravel, it just costs speed in this Academy car. It just doesn't have the power, does it?
No, that's it. So it's very easy. It's a risk and reward type gain, and God knows what it's like in real life.
Well, we're going to find out in a couple of weekends' time. So I just spoke to Ryan and said thanks for his sponsorship, but equally from DPR Motorsport, from myself, thank you so much for all your support, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you will get on at Knockhill in just a couple of weekends' time. Yeah,
that's it. We're packed up, ready to go, and we're looking forward to it. And I think in real life, it's going to be a real challenge that the drivers are looking forward to it.
I mean, to see the 420s go around here, it's a spectacular sight, and I encourage anyone to get up there and have a look, because the circuit's pretty cool as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, if anyone's around the DPR awning, then feel free to pop in and we can show you around. But yeah, thanks a lot for everything, Cheesy. It's good, really good setup and race.
We will speak soon then. See you later.
Good stuff. See ya.
I can also see that Cherney is around. Race 2, 3rd place. Yaroslav, you got me in the commentary box?
Hi, I do.
Twice in a row we're speaking. This is a rare treat for me. But 3rd place in that race, and actually a consistent night racing, I would say, from you after what was a pretty catastrophe in turn 1, race 1.
Yeah, it was a mess. I'm sorry.
Well, we just saw you. We didn't see what happened. We just saw you sideways, and then the field just sort of went everywhere.
Yeah, I've collided with the car on the right. I don't know who it was, so I didn't even know who to wait for, and then just cars everywhere. So it's a tough turn one because it's so blind.
It's just you turn in and hope for the best, don't you? That it just falls away. But by the time race 2 came, right back up there and just out of reach of the two in front, but always there to pick up the pieces if it all went wrong.
Yes, I was waiting for them. They're gonna make some mistake, crash into the tires or something, but they were lucky.
They just managed to keep it all in, yeah. So great stuff. And yeah, well done. Another good night racing. I think that'll see you quite well in the championship, certainly closing the points there on Donkin.
Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah, all right. We will speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Great stuff. So let's just remind ourselves then. So Knockhill Superheader event done and dusted. Next event is Brands Hatch Indy, where we'll be running the 310R around that on the 21st of August. So set your calendars. Get ready for another tight, twisty roller coaster short track before then the final event, Donington National, back in the Caterham Academy car on the 2nd of October. And that will bring our season to the end. And as we've been saying all night, we've got the official Caterham Motorsport season heading to Knockhill. All rungs of the motorsport ladder there. It's going to be an incredibly busy weekend, and my voice, I hope, will hold out. 3rd and 4th of August, if you're in the Scotland and the Edinburgh, Dunfermline region, Fife, then why not head up there? If you're looking for a holiday, why not head over? It's a spectacular place to come and watch racing and Caterham's wall-to-wall Caterham action, all from the Caterham Motorsport ladder. Can't wait to take there, but all that's left for me tonight is to say thank you to our sponsors. So the 2024 caterhamracer.com Caterham Championship is sponsored by one-to-one on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker, and by DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage. See you again in a little while.